All right, so today we're joined by Un. He is originally from Thailand, and he's the only, Thai student of the entire year that got accepted into Harvard College for last year, and one of three the past 4 years. So that's an insane accomplishment because it's super difficult, extremely difficult for international students, especially to get into high Ivy leagues, especially the top Ivy leagues. So today we're gonna interview Ern and ask him, cause he's fresh off the boat, he freshly got accepted. So there's literally no one else better to ask than Ern in the current landscape of admission colleges, which has changed so much and is so different. So Ern's gonna spill all his secrets and nuggets, yeah, and so would you like to do any like quick intro or sharing to start off or
Of course. I'm Ern. I'm currently a freshman at Harvard College, pursuing computer science and economics as well. I'm originally from Thailand, and I also studied high school in Thailand as well. So I applied directly to Harvard College, and I got accepted last year. It's been a great experience. A great first semester at Harvard College. I've met great people, great professors, and also I've explored many interesting things as well.
amazing. So let's rewind and start from scratch. Like, at what grade did you, started to prepare for the college admissions? What grade were you when you started?
Great question, because I think like this differs from people to people. I I decided that I would like to apply to the US at grade around. So I prepared my application for about 2 years, but I was fortunate because before that I have did some extracurricular activities before. Not because I want to include those activities in my application, but because I enjoy those activities. Uh-huh. But after that, after I review um what I need to do, I also did several other activities as well. And I think that's what got me into Harvard.
Okay, we'll slowly untangle and explore those. So grade 10, that's not very early relatively. Some people prepare like when they are like grade
Yeah,
8 or stuff. So you only had like 2, 3 years, which is you had, like 2, 3 years, which is really impressive. Grade 10, that's when you're like 14 years old, right?
about yeah, 14, 15 years old.
Okay. And did you like consult any admission officers or any admission consultants back then, or was your school like this sort of like everybody is like really going to US school? Like how did you first come across it? Who was guiding you since grade 10?
Okay, so I have to tell you more about my school's back. My dad first, and I was lucky because both of them both graduated from the US, so they got some knowledge to consult me. But I also got consulting service from other companies as well, and I think they mainly helped me about my essays. But most of the activities, it was my own passion. I didn't consult what I want to do with them. It's about my own interests. Yeah.
Okay. So what grade did you hire the admission consultant?
It's the starting of grade 12. So it's just for my essays, reviews, and like the application reviews as a whole. But I don't think it's really affect my extracurricular activities.
Okay, that's really impressive, because some people, hire admission consultants when you're just like grade 8, 9, 10, but you started with your last year. So it shows like you've already done a lot of the work yourself, prior to hiring someone to help you with the essay writing and stuff. Okay, that's cool. So when it comes to like your academics and stuff, were you like the top in school? Like what's your grades looking like?
Yes. So I got a GPA of 3.97,
Hmm.
which probably ranks around top 2% of my class. So I have to tell you that the Thai curriculum is it's really tough. When it A 3.97 GPA is quite impressive for my high school. And if you look into the profile of my high school, you can see that almost every year, our students got accepted to Ivy League schools. So if you rank like in the top 2% of the high school that always send kids to Ivy League schools, then you'll be in the top tier of the pool.
Okay, that's good. So it shows like, academics is important, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to be like the number one in the entire school. No, at least as
Yes.
long as you rank like here, the other stuff matters more. Okay. So wanna slowly untangle and unwind. So when it comes to your like passion projects, your extracurriculars, could you share like what were you doing?
Yeah. So I really did a lot of stuff. I will start like chronologically by the first thing I did, which is like in ninth grade. Yeah. So like 4 years ago. So back then, I was really into mathematics. So I competed in this national mathematics competition. It was a theoretical mathematic project. And what I did was creating a graph theory about a Pascal triangle and combinations of equation of systems that can be solved using the Pascal triangle. And I got like second place nationwide um, using this paper. Um, then in grade 10, I was into robotics. I built several robots and I competed in the national robotics competition. This event is organized by the Office of Atoms for Peace, and then I received third place from this competition. So what I did is that I built a robot capable of retrieving radioactive samples on a simulated moonscape. And then when I started 10th grade, I started building this educational platform, which is like a mobile app to connect kids from top high schools to kids in rural areas.
Okay. So it's just these three, right? Two competitions and the mobile app.
Mm. It was more than that, but these are like three top things I did back in high school. Actually, you can put in like 10 activities, right?
Hmm.
So I had all my 10 activities filled up, but these three are the top three.
Okay. I know like Harvard like places a lot of weight on competition stuff because last time when I was interning at this company, Bain& and Company, like, a lot of Ivy League grads, and this guy, he's the only one who got into Harvard. He was, like, a math
Mm,
Olympiad from Singapore, so, like, Harvard really puts a lot of weight on competition stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So for the mobile app, like, what sort of how did you, like, develop it, and what sort of like, how did you, like, get the ideation and the execution of it, and what sort of metrics and impact did you share with Harvard that you have achieved?
Yeah. So I would love to go back to like my inspiration of why I started building as this application first. So basically, in 10th grade, me and my family we visited a school in Surin province, which is like a rural school. And we went there to um gave the speech for the opening of the school, which our family donated for. But I saw like the stark discrepancy between the environment in that school and the environment in my own school. So I felt that I need to do something So at first, I organized several tutoring sessions for kids in rural areas. But then I had this epiphany moment that we can connect all these kids in the rural schools to top schools in Thailand, to kids in top schools in Thailand, by creating a platform allowing kids in top schools in Thailand to share their knowledge, and they can also receive certificates from this nonprofit organization called Youth Plus Thailand as their incentives,
Mm.
and they can also be recognized by several government sectors. So they're gonna have this incentive to share their resources to kids in rural schools.
So you're saying
Uh, mhm,
so you're saying the mentors who's mentoring the students who mentoring gets the certificate.
yes. And also, like these certificates, if they want to apply to like Thai universities, they can use these certificates as their portfolio as well.
Mm.
So it's a win-win situation.
Okay, that's amazing. And how did you like develop an app? Like, was it like a mobile apps in the app store, or like how did you develop it? And
Yeah. So team of 15 members, comprising of like technical developers, marketing person, business development person, and we also had help from a tech company, and we also consult with a nonprofit organization called Youth Plus Thailand, which I also works as an advisor position inside this organization, and I'm also a speaker inside um, Youth Plus Thailand as well. So we had help from both private organization and a nonprofit organization.
okay, that's amazing. And I'm pretty sure like the impact, the metrics that all of you would be able to measure was quite significant, I assume, you know? Okay. And like, do you have like the rough numbers in terms of like how many sort of students you connected with the, because I know like in the application, you always look for like metrics, you know, like quantifiable metrics, you know. I
Yeah.
will disclose some
So
of
I
it.
would say we 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 worked with 3 to 5 high schools, which are in Smooth Pragan province, and we collaborated with the government sector of those areas and to implement this application. And we actually got received great feedback from all the per- personnel inside those areas, both teachers and the students as well. So after that, we expanded beyond that province, and we got around like 7,000 users, active users.
Okay, that's really impressive, you know. Okay. And you don't mind sharing, like, apart from these three top extracurriculars, what were the other seven, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. So I back in 11th grade, I formed a book club inside my school called PAIC, which is short for Project and Innovation Club. So within this club, we recruit kids who want to like start their own projects, apply to competitions, and experiment on new things. And then we connect them with mentors who have already accomplished in that certain field. And then we spin off and create different projects. We got like several recognitions from both public and private sectors, and also we also organized TED Talks as well. We collaborated with TEDx Bangkok Youth, which is a youth organization recognized by TEDx itself. And we organized 8 talks throughout 2 years on a variety of topics about STEM, education, poverty, sustainability, and even like human rights.
Amazing. So starting a club, that's great. Do you remember the other six?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I need to have a bit of time thinking about all the six. The one I can think of right now. is the another robotics project I did,
Mhm.
which is called the Ajan robot. This one is the intersection between my educational platform project and my first robotics project. So Ajan robot is like an educational robot, and it was deployed in rural areas as well. It was designed to teach English and to be more engaging than just studying from computers. Um, my next project, I was a I was a advisory position for Youth Plus Thailand. That's one of my activities as well. And then I was a student body president for grade 12. And I also compete in a mathematics competition, which is like nationally. And I received like um gold medal. Not first place, but gold medal recognition. Um, about the other three, I mean, uh, oh, okay. I was in this astronomy club back in high school. And the other two, it was like a year ago, so I need time to think about it. Um,
Yeah, no worries. If you need time, we can continue with our
no, I did it. I did research. I did a research.
Okay.
I did a research with Chulalongkorn University professor on like tokenization, translating video clips into word vectors and then word vectors into summarization, all in Thai language. So it's kind of like a machine learning model to help summarize video clips, educational video clips.
Okay, that's amazing. So very diverse, like competitions,
Yeah.
research, clubs, not for
Yeah, I think
app.
diversity is one of the most important factor. You cannot like be very academically driven. You have to have like projects that contribute to your community as well. You also have to have academic accomplishments as well, and you also have to have some activities that demonstrate your leadership, your own passion, something you do out of your joy. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So moving on to the personal statements and the essays and stuff, what are your biggest sort of takeaways and stuff? The old sort of common sort of popular advice is, create a theme, then,
Mm.
all of that. But what's your take? What's your?
Yeah. So the thing about personal statement is that it's very flexible. So you have this 8 questions, 8 topics you can choose from. And the last question is basically saying you can write anything. So the personal statement itself is very flexible. I think the best way to come up with a great personal statement is to be as genuine as possible. You want to write about something that is very personal to you. It doesn't have to be the reasons why you did all the extracurriculars. I mean, it can be if, and it will help you as well because it will demonstrate that you continue your passion and make it into something that is impactful. But if it's not related to what you did for your extracurricular activities, that's also okay as well. The key factor is that personal statement has to show your interest, show who you are, and the tips I like to use is that if the admission officer were to read your personal statement, they cannot put other name into yours. So if they read the whole personal statement, it has to be specifically related to you, like a one-on-one function.
Okay, that's amazing. And I know you mentioned you hired the admission consultant to help with the essay writing and stuff. Did you, like, did you learn anything from it? Like, uh, you know?
Yeah, I think admission consultants can really help us with the writing style because college writing is really different to high school writing. Um, so during high school, we often write essays about like argumentative essays, research papers. But for college essays, we need a very creative essays. Also, it's like you're trying to talk to.
Okay. More on the technicality, not on the, like, overarching theme. I agree, you know?
Yes, you have to come up with your own overarching theme.
I agree. I paid for this girl. She studied, like, linguistics in, I think, Princeton or Yale, and, like, they know how to, like, structure things more, like, technically and
Yeah.
as you said, you know? Okay. Um, so apart from, like, that, any other, like, advice and stuff on specificities in terms of, like, the personal statements, essays, like, how should somebody start it? How should somebody, like, you can be as detailed as possible if you can remember, that would be great.
Mhm. So I can tell you how I started with my personal statement. So I used a story about me and my grandpa, who who has a really unique story as well. So he's a police officer. Actually, he is a general as well. He used to study at UC Berkeley.
Oh,
He studied criminology
wow,
at UC Berkeley. So he had a really unique story. He grew up in remote island in Thailand during the World War.
wow,
So he was sent out to India to study high school there, and then he had no money, so he had to work, basically work his ass off, and then apply to U.S. college, and he got accepted to UC Berkeley, studying criminology, which is a very unique field of study as well.
mhm.
And he came back to become a major general in Thailand. So his story is quite inspiring. But the key takeaway from his story is that he is persevering. He always followed his dreams, and then he always tried to make impact upon his community. And those three values was passed on to me. Um, my life was much more smoother than his, but his values passed on to me, allow me to be brave, be courageous, to be different, to do something um extra from my friends, to try to contribute back to my community. That's like the theme of my essays.
Wow, that's such a unique story as you say that. That's so interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, that's so cool. Anything else you wanna share or add on for the personal statements, essay stuff?
Yeah, so back to the personal statement. I think not all of us have like this very interesting story. Um, your story doesn't have to be about your family. It can be about your passion. It can be about your friend. It can be about one of your projects. Basically, it can be about anything. Just make it unique, make it as specific as possible, and make sure that you have something to support your message. You say the essays.
Well, what do you mean by something that supports? Like,
Mhm. Yeah. So if I use my example of my personal statement related to my grandpa, the three values, the most important values out of those three is trying to contributing back to my community and my supportive activities to that idea is educable, which is my educative platform. Also, what I did for PLC, organizing TED Talks for everyone to have a chance to tell their own story. Just like my grandpa who had a chance to tell his story and pass on his story to me, which really affects my life. So I would like to create a space so that other people can share their stories, their inspiring stories that could possibly inspire other people as well.
Amazing. And I know, like, a lot of people preach that you need to emphasize on showing future potential and personal growth, like these two in any sort of personal statement and essays. How did you incorporate these two, showing future potential and personal growth
Yeah,
in your
that's a great question. For personal growth, throughout my personal statement, I portrayed it as a different phase of my life. So I started off with my grandpa's story first, then how my grandpa's inspiring stories affect my earliest life. And then I proceed into how I reflect upon the time during my early life and the time I started doing my own projects. And to the end of the essays, I reflect back again and I basically states that now I'm proud to share my activities and my leadership skills, so my technical skills.
Okay, interesting. And just on to backtrack a little, just a quick question. Like I know you got good grades at your, year 12. But were your grades consistent and high, like, since the start of
Yes.
high school?
Yeah.
So you were
The
having good
answer is
grades
yes.
9, 10, 11.
Yeah. So, okay, I have to tell you more about the Thai curriculum. So, in ninth grade, I was in different school. It was normal for top Thai kids to take the admission exam to the 10th grade. So, for Thai, so back in middle school, I got a perfect grade. And during high school, I got almost perfect grade as well. But the high school I was in, um, people who want to join need to take the admission exam. And almost every year, like 15,000 kids compete to get into this high school, which accepts around like 700 kids. So that information already shows how competitive um, Trinidad is, which is like my high school. So this fact helped me as well because it showcased that my academic accomplishment is quite impressive.
Amazing. Because I have a friend where, like, he studied A levels, he had perfect 4 A stars, but he said that he realized that consistent grades throughout high school was
Mhm.
something that is also looked at.
Yes, I totally agree because for me, I think consistency can show the admission officers that you are not just trying to perfect your grade in your last year because you want to apply to college, but you cares a lot about learning. You cares a lot about keeping good grades because you know that good grades will help you in the future. That fact just showcased that you are a very grown up person. And then I think these simple facts are somewhat reflective of who you are. Yeah. And it's really important to the admission process as well.
Okay. So if somebody like didn't have consistent, relatively good grades when they were in like lower grade school, like what's your advice?
Uh, I think, yeah, I have seen a lot of my friends who start deeply about applying to college, like in grade 11, in grade 12. I mean, you have to be honest about that. Just tell them in your essays that you had this epiphany moment, that you realize that, oh, you need to really try your best to achieve good grades, because you know that good grades can be used for many things. But just be honest. Just tell you about your true passion, your realization moments, why you really want to like work the ass off and trying to get into top college. Just, yeah, just tell them the truth,
That's a
because you cannot do anything about your past grades.
that's a good strategy. It's just like being upfront and transparent, or like addressing the elephant in the room.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So moving on, the next question. Anything else you want to talk about when it comes to like essay writing approach? Anything else or
Yeah, I think for essay writing approaches, there are like different ways to tackle like different topics of essays, because you have this personal statement, and you also have like supplementals, right? For the supplementals, it really differs from like college to college. I think the key takeaways I I had from my application process is that for each specific supplementals, you have to really study that college, understand what the school is like, understand what you want to learn, or what do you want to contribute at that certain school, and then you have to be reflective of the picture you think you can create at that school. So you also have to demonstrate your past accomplishments, but you also have to demonstrate your potential to contribute to that school as well.
so you're saying gotta personalize according to like, the values of the school, what they're looking for.
And also, you need to show them that you can contribute to them. I think that's the most important part.
Got it. Contribute in the ways that they're looking for, or just
Contribute in the way that you are looking for and that they are looking for as well. So you have to find like the batch.
okay. Okay. So moving on, like what schools did you apply to? If you can remember on the top of a head, like all the schools you got applied to and the acceptance, rejection for all.
Okay. Okay. I have to think about this. So to I applied early to Stanford, and unfortunately I got rejected. So yeah, this thing about college application, it's very random. And then I applied to CMU with legacy as well, and I got deferred.
Carnegie Mellon, just in case anybody doesn't know. Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon, yes. I applied to CS, which is a really, really competitive major within Carnegie Mellon. If you look into the stats, you can see that they accept no more than like 40 kids, international kids, every year. So it's really competitive.
Did you get
And
in at
like,
last or?
no, I haven't. I mean, I haven't looked into the. I haven't written the letters of continued interest.
Mhm.
I do not.
Okay, and so I just stop
We
you there.
got.
Like, what are your thoughts? Because you're just talking about that. Like, what are your thoughts on people applying to like the non-competitive majors inside of like competitive schools? Like, do you think that would help or doesn't really help? Or
And then after you got in, you can basically take any courses, um, declare any majors. Like these liberal arts schools, they don't really care about the major you applied into. They care more about you, like holistically as a person who can contribute and learn from them. But for the first part, for schools like Carnegie Mellon, you just have to be really specific. You must demonstrate that you are really into computer science, for example, and then you have to, you know, you have to have a lot of experiences in that field as well. So, for example, if you're trying to apply to computer science, you should have like your own platform. You should compete in like computer science Olympiad. You should have something to demonstrate that you're very interested in the field.
Got it. And let's say for these technical colleges where they put an emphasis on like the majors that you gotta declare and stuff, is it like is it a strategy at all to apply for the least competitive majors just to get in? Then some people would think that they can just transfer the majors, but sometimes it's difficult, when you're inside.
Yeah, I think it differs from school to school as well. Carnegie Mellon, for example, it's really hard to transfer into a different school within Carnegie Mellon. So, for example, it's very hard to transfer from Tepper School of Business into the School of CS. But what you can do is you can apply to a less competitive school, less competitive major, and then you can double count or maybe like double major. That's a possibility for CMU, but that's not what I did because I just don't want to like take so many courses and credits. I don't think that's worth it. So I just applied to CS. Um, yeah, there are many tactics you can use, which depends and differs differently from school to school.
Okay. And sorry to cut you that you're saying at first you mentioned Stanford, then Carnegie Mellon, then you're saying more.
Okay, yeah. So I got accepted to UIUC as well.
Sorry, like I think some people don't understand the abbreviation or
Oh, I
acronym.
see. Sorry. It's University of Illinois and Urbana-Champaign, a very good technical school as well. I got accepted to system engineering and information design, which is like the combination of like computer science, economics, and social studies. Very interested major as well. And then I got deferred from Georgia Tech. Um, didn't write the letters of continuing interest. Um, I got deferred from Northwestern. Didn't like write the letter of continuing interest as well because I got accepted to Harvard. So there's no need for me to write the letters of continuing interest. And then I applied to three Ivies, which is like Harvard, Columbia, and Cornell. I got rejected from Columbia. I got accepted to Cornell.
Uh-huh. So those are the only schools you applied to, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious, like, why
So
did
yeah,
Mhm.
I didn't like apply to like a lot of colleges because of like I applied to the college I really like the cities that I would like to be in as well. I didn't apply to MIT because I know for specific reason that MIT always accept kids with Olympiad medals from Thailand. So I didn't have an Olympiad medal back then. So I didn't apply to MIT.
Okay. I'm curious, why don't you, like, I understand that your intention is more pure, like, you don't just apply just for the sake of, like, getting into, like, one of the Ivies and stuff. You apply very intentionally on what you wanna study, the city and stuff. Have you ever thought of, like, just shooting your shot like, or seeing other like, if your friends, just shoot their shot and just, like, apply to all of it, just for a
Yeah,
chance, just to have a chance?
I think that's a good strategy as well because I mean you only have one chance of applying to college, right? So you might just as well apply to all the possible places you want to go. And I think there's no downside for that. If you can do it, just do it.
Okay. Makes sense. But do you feel like to apply for each college, like, do you think the amount like, would it take, like, a lot of time and
Yeah,
effort just for, like,
definitely,
one new college? Like,
definitely. Yeah, especially if you're an international kid, and if you decide to apply to a really competitive college, you need to have a really thorough background research of the college. You have to try to find the match between you and the college, and you have to craft like your essays, portray your stories in a very creative way. So it's a really demanding process, and you have to plan about and prioritize your list as well.
sure. And did you also, like, form, like, your, like, uh, they always say, like, the reach school, the safety school, like, did you have that list as well, or?
Because I already got like 50% scholarship um acceptance offer into Chulalongkorn University, which is like the best university in Thailand. Um so I already had my like backup plans. So I only applied to like top colleges.
Got it.
But it's great to have like different tier of importance and have like a decent backup plan as well.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Next, moving on, the next question is, like, how is studying at Harvard like, and why I mean, it's pretty obvious why you chose Harvard, but
Mm.
why would you choose Harvard over the others?
If I were to accept it into like CMU, Northwestern, like those different schools, I would still choose Harvard. The first reason would obviously because of the name, but after I spent my like first semester there, I felt really lucky that I chose Harvard. Because it was more than just like academic courses, but it's like the people. Harvard people were so friendly. Um, they're so open. You can talk to literally everybody, from your friends, faculties, to the president of Harvard itself. You can seek out help anytime. There are so many amazing student organizations. We were working with real clients. We were tackling real world problems. So, spending a semester there, I felt like I really made my impact in a certain level, and it shaped me as a person. So, if I were to go back and if I knew all of these information about Harvard, I would definitely choose Harvard before every colleges because I really enjoyed my experience there. But back then, it was like 70% because of the name and because of the situation I was in as well. Like Harvard was the best schools out of the schools I got accepted into. So the choice was pretty obvious.
Hmm, amazing. Okay. And is that like, do you have any like opinion on like what the differences between the universities are, or?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you based on my conversations with my friends
Mhm.
in different Ivy League schools. But all of them are good. All of them are great schools, actually. Um, I think the key differences between different Ivy League schools would be the character of the people within those schools. Harvard people, they're not as deep and technical as MIT people. They're more like friendly. They're more on the business side. They're more on the application side. MIT kids, they're more on the academic sides, the research side. You can say about UPenn, they are famous for the Wharton School, so they're on the business side. Stanford, a very innovative place, full of entrepreneurs as well. So I think the key difference is about the culture and the types of people you are going to find in these different colleges.
Amazing. Okay. And I'm pretty sure like, your friends from high school who got into like top US colleges as well as like, you met friends from other sort of top universities as well.
Fees? Yeah.
What did you learn from like how they underwent the admission process to get into top US colleges? Like how did their process differ from you, you know?
Yeah. So firstly, for my Thai friends, I think their process was quite similar to mine. So my high school, like I told you, we send like 4 to 5 kids to Ivy League every year. So, but the interesting fact is that all those friends got accepted into different Ivy League schools. So we had different profiles. Some of my friends um had a very strong academic profile. They had Olympic medals. One of them was actually 24th ranking mathematician worldwide.
Wow.
So really impressive. He got accepted into MIT. Um, I did a lot of projects on like social impact, benefiting my community. I got accepted into Harvard. Um, People who did physics got accepted into Columbia. So it's about how you shape your application and like how the admission officers viewed you to be a perfect match with their institutions.
Wow, that's so interesting. Okay. Um, that's so interesting, that you have friends who went to all different Ivy Leagues, so you're able to gain some sort of like different perspective as well from each. Okay. So just moving on, like right now, you have decided to help and mentor others as well, and you shared that you believe, you, you have this like proven sort of framework and stuff. So, would you like to share in terms of like, let's say, somebody's watching this in your same position, maybe they're in usually like grade 10, grade 11, or maybe even grade 12, the last year of the grade. Like, how would you guide them from start to finish? Let's say if you were their admission consultant or counselor right now, you know?
Great question. So the first question I'm going to ask my students is that what they want to study, because that's the most important question. And then I would start off with that, um, and then followed by their passion. So the passion part, it doesn't have to be related or directly related to what they want to study. It can be anything basically. And I would try to find a connection between their passion and what they want to study in the future. Because if you can find that connection supplemented by stories, you can really build a profile worthy of like Ivy League admissions. And then after that moment, um, like me and also like other admission consulting teams need to work on to build um their profiles, because profiles for me is the most important factor in college application. Essays are just like cooking recipes, but you need to have cooking materials first. And those materials, if those materials are really of high quality, you just need a final touch to create a really delicious and holistic application, right? So basically, I would start off with what they want to do, what their passion is, and then work on one by one what their passion project should be, what the level of impact their passion project should be able to create, and then what types of scaling they should focus to make their activities recognizable to these admission officers.
Makes sense. So, like, the essay is just, where you put everything together, but the meat and
Yeah,
potatoes is the
exactly.
actual sort of passion projects, like the
Exactly.
extracurriculars that they do. Okay. So you mentioned about so let's say like, a student come to you and, they share like what they want to study, their passion, their theme, whatever, their passion, like how would you build their profile?
Yeah. So I would ask them two questions. The first question is that, have they ever done something that they felt really meaningful? Like when I built my own robots, I didn't do that because I want to include robotics as part of my profile to apply to college. So I think this first types of activities are really important as well. The activities that you did out of your own passion, purely out of your own passion, not related to the profile you want to create for college application. These activities would often be portrayed as more genuine. The second question I would ask them is that, if you already decide what major or what field of study you want to pursue, what types of extracurriculars can you connect your previous passion with the field of study you want to pursue? For example, I'm passionate about education. I want to study computer science. So I built an educational platform. This kind of like connections between your passion and your extracurricular activities is really important. And that is what I would try to focus and try to work with my students to come up with these kind of extracurricular activities that can both demonstrate your passion and your future field of studies, or like intended field of studies.
Okay. That makes so much of sense, like you see what you want to study, their passion, and
Mhm.
what sort of like projects have they been doing in spite of the contrived sort of resume they're trying to build. Then only you seek out what can they add on to that. Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I like your really systematic approach. Any other sort of like very specific advice and guidance, that you guide someone to?
Yeah. So I've talked a lot about how to prepare high quality like ingredients. But as for the cooking process, I think you have to be really creative about your essays. For example, um, for Harvard, no two roommates essay. Also, Stanford has this essays as well. So write a note to your roommate. What I did was basically I split it my note into two half. The second half is my own message, and the first half are messages from people around me. So basically, I portray my note as two separate voices, my own voice and voices from those who I love, because I believe that if you are going to spend your whole year with your roommate, they should be able to hear from people who love you and people who you love as well. So this is a really creative way of crafting the no to roommate essays. And similarly, for different essays, you have to be really creative. One of the essays, I literally quoted Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter, one of the Howard essays. So these creative details can really make your essays memorable and stand out to admission officers.
Got it. Okay. What other ways do you think, um, like putting a quote from like a fictional sort of character, that's one way. What other ways do you think can really make it very unique? Because I've seen so many types of essays and like the way that they're written is like so like how in the world did you even write such an essay, you know?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to get a unique essay is use the story that only you can tell. Um, One of my students who I'm helping, he is applying to U.S. universities this cycle. He's waiting for the results. Um, so I helped him work on these essays about what it's his intended field of study, right? So he started off this essays by talking about how he was top 1% of players inside a game called IvyTier. So basically, what he did was he analyzed every single line of code of every characters in that game in order to understand all their attributes and abilities, and then come up with a way he received gold medal from the International Mathematics Olympiad, and then how he flipped the story of him being this kind of like gamer, a very nerdy person, into a person that always find the most fundamental components of a complex system. And how last year he built a mathematical model to use in his neuroscience project. Basically, it's like a mathematical model to simulate a specialized playlist of classical musics to relieve stress. So this kind of story is very unique. Start off with being a gamer, then a mathematician, then becoming a scientist. But all of these like stories, the underlying reflections is that he always look into the most fundamental layers under the whole complex system.
It makes so much of sense. And just circling back a bit, in terms of like building the profiles for the extracurriculars, what other extracurriculars do you think, have you seen that's great that,
Mm.
students can work on and consider?
I think community service and social impact, um, like is the most common extracurricular I saw throughout just a lot of college applications. But I think there are two important keywords you need to focus on, which is depth and breadth. So your essays should be reflections of both depth and breadth. So your ingredients must have a variety of like um taste, but also in each taste you have you need to have a really deep taste as well. So if you're doing community service, you need to also showcase your academic capabilities. You need to also showcase your leadership capabilities, and you also need to showcase your passionate activities, right? And within these different categories of extracurriculars, you need to show depth as well. You need to show time commitment. You need to show that you're really invested in your project because you don't want a list of 10 superficial projects. You want a list of 10 projects, including 5 categories. But within these category, two of the projects need to be really deep. So you would have 10 projects spanning a variety of areas, but also deep into specific areas as well.
Sure. When you mention like community service, social impact, like any examples of the usual, like not for profit, like, like what you do, the apps, anything else, or
Yeah, the usual approach would be trying to create not for profit or like free platform. But the underlying question is that what's the problem you're trying to um tackle, right? And that problem must be something you are passionate to tackle. It must tie up back to your personal statement. You cannot just come up with a nonprofit you want to do, but that idea is totally irrelevant to what you wrote in your essays.
got it. Okay. Makes sense. Um, and just on the topic of extracurriculars, like, that's why we created, IvyTier, like, because we noticed that, the admission process has become so competitive. Everybody, literally all the top students have a not-for-profit that they have this club and stuff. But what is recent, only the past 3, 5 years, maybe 2, 3 years, is like social media accounts. Like we reference a lot of people going to MIT and stuff. They
Yeah.
grow like social media accounts, having and publishing a book, getting featured on like getting recognition, on like newspaper and stuff. So what are your thoughts on all these that we're introducing and helping other students with?
Yeah. I think like the social media recognition and the public recognition is just a great way to validate your accomplishments.
Yep.
Because, for example, if you were saying that you create this club and like 2,000 kids in your country participate in this club, so how can the admission officers validate your success?
Exactly.
Right? And these social media platforms, public recognitions are just like a great way to validate your success.
Exactly. Because nowadays, like the admission process getting so competitive, you have more people fabricating and more people exaggerating the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe their impact like 10,000 people, then they double or triple. Like, how would the admission officers know? And that's why all this like external validation is really important, that people can, it's like a digital resume, that people can verify. Okay. So moving on to the next question, like what other, proven format do you have? Let's say, somebody wants to have us to guide them as their admission consultant. You already mentioned about building the profile, the essay writing. What else, if let's say somebody come to us to be their admission consultant, what else would you guide them on?
Yeah. So it depends on like the moment in time they join and they worked with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they join a bit late in the process, compiling process, the essay writing process, but if they join early, let's say like ninth grade, 10th grade, we can really work on the profile building process. But I think um, academically, you just have to be consistent as well. So if they join early, I would guide them on like how to really showcase your academic capabilities by doing well in school, but also participating in different academic competitions. And also, what I can suggest for like kids in maybe in my areas, which is like Southeast Asia. I understand that like for Thailand, from my high school, we don't have AP or IB or A levels. So what I did was basically I studied Thai curriculum, but I also self-studied AP, and I applied to take the AP exams as homeschooled, and I took 6 APs in my 12th grade without having any classes, any AP classes as well, all self-study. And this kind of like approach can really distinguish you from most of the applicants.
Okay. So, like, going above and beyond, even though it's, like, difficult and stuff, it's not just about the grades, but the effort, the initiative, and the process that you're
Yeah.
trying to show the admission officers.
Okay.
Anything else in terms of any sort of structure advice, any, you know, methodology, any other, like, system that you wanna share, you know?
I think um, your schedule and your planning is really important because um, like if you start to realize that you would apply to top universities, let's say 10th grade, everything will be overwhelming because you have to focus on your grades, trying to be consistent. You need to also come up with high quality extracurriculars. You need to build your profile. You need to start thinking about the schools you are going to apply to. You will start doing thinking about how you're going to shape your story, your personal statement, and also how you're going to implement your supplemental essays. So you need a really well organized plan. What you are trying to do first, and then what can you do concurrently, what you must focus over time on, and what's the top priority of your list.
Got it, okay. Any other advice? Anything else you wanna share, you know?
Not that I can think of right now, but I think I shared a lot of insights about application process already.
Okay. And the final thing, not sure if you wanna like touch on is because you shared with me privately on like, but this I think most people already know. Like you shared with me like the Harvard process of like how they argue for you and stuff. Do you want to touch on that or?
Yeah, I can briefly touch on that. So basically, the application process di- differs from schools to schools. But for Harvard, I was lucky because I had a chance to speak with the AO, which is like the admission officers who accepted me back in March. Um, and then what she told me is that Harvard used this boarding system where the admission officers will be the person who presents your own case to the voting committee, who will be deciding whether you will be accepted or not. So the key takeaway from this process is that you really need to impress your admission officers, and your admission officers will usually uh, looks after like 7 to 10 countries within your region. So what you need to do is you have to stand out um, within those pools of applications.
Got it. Okay. And During your admission process, did any of the colleges, like, conduct interviews with you or none?
Yes, almost every college.
Wow. So Stanford, Harvard, like,
Stanford, Harvard, um, Cornell.
can you share? Cause I think that's because, like, not many people get the chance, most people, they're just outright
Mhm.
rejected. I think that if you get the chance to interview with them, I think that's a great experience, you don't mind sharing?
I think every college I applied to, which um has an interview process, I received an interview request from every college. Um, so basically, what I learned from these interviews is that it's more of like a casual talk between like alumni and potential um acceptance, right? So basically, what you want to do in the conversation is you want to be really casual, you want to be really genuine, and you want to showcase that you really don't want to get into that school, but you cannot just like um outright tell them that you are perfect fit from the school. You has to be a bit tricky. You need to tell most of the stories about yourself, but hinting connections with your from yourself to those schools. So you cannot outright tell them that you're a perfect fit for the school. But you just have to like tell all their informations that they can put together and conclude that you are a perfect fit to the school.
Yeah, can't just say like, "Oh, I'm a perfect fit for a school," but you gotta hint and indicate to, like, maybe about, like, anything that's specific that the school's looking for, their values, could be the geography, could be so many things, the major and all that makes sense. Yeah, and really appreciate it's been an hour and almost 15 minutes. Anything else you'd like to share before we conclude?
I think that would be all for me.
Okay, thank you so much. And we
Yeah,
look forward
thank
to
you so
talking to
much.
you in the next one. Okay.
Yeah.